So Kartik, welcome to this debriefing session. Congratulations on scoring a 740. A good quant score, great verbal scores. Q50 V41, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So how does it feel?
It feels great. Honestly, it was a tough exam, and towards the end, I was not entirely sure that I was gonna score as high as 740. So it was a very pleasant and very encouraging sign that I did.
So we didn't talk about this earlier, but did you take the GMAT at home or did you go to the test
I
center?
went to the center.
How was the experience taking the GMAT wearing a mask?
Honestly, when I found out that you're supposed to take a mask, I'd been practicing at home wearing the mask and giving the exam. So that's how I kind of got my mindset into it. And the test center was great, honestly. Shout out to the center. They really made the experience really well.
And was it very crowded, or were there slots open and
slots were open? In fact, I reached half an hour before my timing and I was able to start the exam then because the seats were empty. I don't think a lot of people are going to the center at the moment right now. Okay. And that was my sense when I was there. So that was interesting.
That's good. So let's talk about your preparation. You said you started preparing quite some time back, about a year back or so. And so tell us about your early preparation, how you prepared, and then how did you decide to buy the e-GMAT course? What led you to do that?
So the first thing I did when I thought, okay, I won't need to give the GMAT, is I bought the OG, and this is back in 2018, early 2019. And I started just practicing the sums, and I figured, hey, this is easy. I mean, I had a degree in physics, so the maths made sense to me. And I thought I had a good grasp on English, so I thought, hey, verbal could make sense to me also. But then when I gave the official mock exam, I got around a 610, and the next mock I got about a 570. And I kind of started losing faith a little bit because I thought, hey, I'm practicing every day, but I'm not getting the desired scores on paper. And I did a deep analysis and I realized my verbal was really bad. And I was plateauing on my quant as well. And that's when one of my friends recommended that I try the e-GMAT verbal course. And I would say this is around March of 2020. And I was lucky that the lockdown kind of, opened up so much time in my day. I could work from home. So I set up a regime and I got deep into the verbal course. And honestly, I fell in love with it immediately because everything started to make sense. And like, I have to give the props to you guys for like designing such a beautiful course. And I love the fact that there is a quiz at the end of every module and that the answers are really well explained. So I started like developing a logic and an intuition towards what the GMAT is looking for, what the right answer is, what the wrong answer is. And once I got deep with Scholaranium, for example, I realized, hey, my quant has plateaued as well. These guys have a quant offering, and if I can just centralize all my learning on one platform, that would make a lot of sense. So I kind of purchased the quant extension to your thing as well. And I mean, you guys also had mocks along with that extension, so that really worked out.
Okay. So you said everything started to make sense the moment you went to the course. You've been studying for about 10, 11 months prior to this. Explain, elaborate on that difference that you're talking about.
So, for example, let's say I encountered an SC question on the official mock or even the OG, right? So anyone's approach is to just read the question and just tick the answer which sounds right. And that's something that e-GMAT immediately slapped me and said, hey, this is, I mean, for the lack of a better word, the reality shock that sounding right isn't always the right answer. Does it make sense logically? And I started looking at sentences not as just language, but as like an algorithm. Like there is a code behind sentences which must be followed. And once that code was kind of revealed to me through the courses, I was able to find out what was wrong with it. So that's what I mean kind of when I say I was able to see the answers.
And we were talking about your background. You're someone who's probably really good academically because you said you studied at Ramjas College, which you've got to be really good in your boards to get in. So for your English was probably really good before you got in.
I think so. It was decent.
It was decent. So when you went through the sentence correction course, you went through the master comprehension course. What was that feeling that as someone who knew grammar quite well? You probably went through Ren and Martin way before.
So my thoughts were that I realized how bad I was at English when I went through the e-GMAT course. funnily enough, because I mean, I read a lot of books and I have an ability to speak well, I believe. But
you're a BD guy. You have to
communicate. Yeah, exactly. I'm a BD guy. That's literally my job. But I realized a lot of the sentences that I was writing and a lot of the sentences that people around me were writing were incorrect grammatically. And I realized that, GMAT is looking for the right meaning and the right grammar. If I can get these two things right, I'm essentially through. They're not looking for the best sounding sentence anymore. And what we do in normal life is we look for the most common sounding words, right? But that's not what GMAT is looking for. So just a sense of what GMAT is looking for was helpful.
Okay.
Going through that.
So then you were at a V27. I looked at your first mock, which is on our platform, which is on April 23rd. It was a V27, less than 50th percentile. Now you went to a V41, which is 94th percentile. So you improved on sentence correction. Then as you went to critical reasoning, how did that change? How did that thought process change over
there? Critical reasoning, I think, so just as a context, in e-GMAT, I did sentence correction and critical reasoning very deeply. I did not get too deep with reading comprehension.
Yes, I can see that. Yes, I can see the context over there. Yes, but you did Scholaranium well in reading comprehension.
Yeah, exactly. So critical reasoning was helpful in the sense that as someone who was taught physics as an undergraduate, I thought I had a very good grasp on logic, but language has a way of manipulating your mind, and GMAT is particularly good at using language to fool you into thinking that you got the right answer. And I mean, what you guys do is fairly simple, but such a brilliant idea that before you jump into the answers, just stop for a second and think about what the question is asking. And just that extra 5 seconds that you train me to think about, and just the right questions you train me to think about, that was enough for me to get on the right path.
It's very interesting when you said I'm a physics undergrad, so I have to be good at logic, because a lot of what physics does is logic. And as someone who wanted to major in physics at one time, I think about that as well. And we recently hired actually an SME who is a physics undergrad, and and she joined e-GMAT because it's like, hey, this is way better paying than what I was getting elsewhere. And she made the exact same statement, like, I'm a physics undergrad, I should know critical reasoning. And and she went through an intensive 1.5 month long training, but after that she has become one of our best CR SMEs. I mean, in the sense that she's the one who would push me to really challenge me and say, this is right and this is wrong and here is why. And so we have these internal duels between our subject matter experts, where we can say, and you guys push us. Sometimes when you post a question, you make us think. Most of the times, we respond to the question right away. I don't know if you got a chance to look at e-GMAT forums internally where students post doubts.
So whenever I go on the GMAT Club forum, that was my primary source. I always look for the e-GMAT response to most questions.
Okay, but are you aware that we have forums inside our course too?
Yeah. I'm aware.
Yeah. So we actually respond to about 500 queries every week. So a few of those make us think. So a few of those kind of lead to debates internally, where we say, is our question wrong? Is our explanation wrong? Can we improve upon it to make it more clear? Because there's lots of doubts coming. And she's the one in critical reasoning who pushes me to really say, hey, Rajat, we need to either fix this or improve upon this. So, I mean, yes, people with a physics background, I think they try and push the envelope when it comes to logic. So yeah, that part's great. So you did that, and then you went to Scholaranium. How was the experience in Scholaranium?
I love data, and just the amount of data that Scholaranium captures and the kind of actionable insights it gives me was just like exactly what I was looking for from my GMAT preparation. And just how the graphs are made, just how granular you guys can get, where what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong. And that's something that's the part that really got me hooked onto Scholaranium. It wasn't so much the questions, because I could get the questions anywhere. It was the ability that Scholaranium could synthesize all the answers that I'm giving and tell me, hey, this is not your strong point, and this is something you should focus on.
Give me an example of how you use that data.
So for instance, I love taking ability quizzes.
I
And
see you have 91 percentile ability everywhere. I can see that's the latest
yeah.
ability score.
So and it was a linear progression. Like it took me time to get to 91, because after I scored, so in one of the mocks
I think let's just show people that piece because we're recording this. So here is the curve for your sentence correction ability score.
Yeah.
That's the reading comprehension one, and you can really see this. Everything starts below a 50th percentile, and then it goes on to that 91st percentile.
Exactly.
Yes. So go on.
So I took a mock where I got a 570, and that was like the changing point in my GMAT story. So I was very afraid of taking exams after that. And the ability quizzes were like kind of like my training ground where I'd go and deal with the questions. And only once I got to say around 90 percentile is when I was able to work up the courage to take an official mock once again. So that's kind of how I looked at the ability mocks that Scholaranium has.
Got it. And when you did well in ability quiz and then you took mocks after that, could you see, I mean, the performance repeated in the actual mocks?
I had a moment of a very emotional experience where I gave the mock again and I got a 690. And from a 570, when you go to 690 immediately after that, that tells you that you can do it. Because when you're at a 570, you're questioning whether you even have the ability to give this exam, And when e-GMAT is telling me I can do well, and then it translates on paper, like that was fairly rewarding experience.
So you had that 690 from a 570, and then so I think let's just go back. Now that's 570. Were you thinking of a 740 then?
I was not. I didn't know what to think of, honestly. I thought, am I too dumb for this exam? Like that was the question in my head at that point. Maybe I'm not smart enough to go to a Harvard or a Stanford or whatever top P schools in the country.
Okay. And so then when you got to that 690, this was like an intermediate step in your preparation. What were you thinking then? So how did that change your thought process?
I remember sitting in front of the laptop, clicking next and seeing 690 in front of me, almost like having an emotional experience and like thinking, I've got you. Like I looked at the exam and said, I'm coming for you and I will get you. Because I knew that I had so much of e-GMAT course still left and I'd already hit a 690. So I thought, if only I just do this, I'm sure I'm going to score more. And it was a linearly rising graph from then on as well.
You've done this very well. I mean, I can see the trend on the ability test, ability quiz plot. It's very consistent, and it's amazing how consistent it is across subsections. So you had ability quizzes where you did not score well. I mean, in early ones. So how did you analyze your mistakes and what led to the improvement from that point on?
So one thing was that, you look at the abstract data and you say, okay, modifiers, maybe I'm not the strongest at. That was one learning. But then once I did that, I went and looked at every single question and its answer. And, try to understand where I'm making wrong decisions, what is really throwing me off. And I mean, I don't know if I've mentioned this yet, but I took like copious notes while I was going through the e-GMAT course.
You've not mentioned it, but yes.
Yeah. So that is something that helped me, is that even in Quant and Verbal, I was taking down notes while I was going through the courses. So I compared my notes with what I was seeing on the screen. And I realized that, okay, verb ing cannot be preceded by a comma, if it's referring to the previous noun, for example.
Right off.
Yeah. Exactly. So things like that. So I was trying to understand what am I not remembering in the exam, and that's how.
So the beauty of this is, I mean, when you see that, it's reinforcing what you learn, but it also creates these little subroutines in your brain. So the next time you don't have to kind of remember it as a concept; it just automatically clicks, and that's where you not just do it right, but you also save time.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was.
Yes. So now let's talk about Quant Q50. You weren't there right from the get-go. So how did you get to Q50?
Like I said, the initial, I promised myself that I was going to go through the entire e-GMAT Quant course, and that's precisely what I did. I sat down, took me maybe a month to do it, but it was good because what you guys do is you get very deep with what's really happening at the foundational level of the math. Like it's not tricks. It's like I really understood what do prime numbers really do in the number system, right? And once you understand why prime numbers exist and what they do, you understand what the question is asking you. So I took a lot of notes and I really engaged with the theory of it all, and that particularly helped me, because no amount of like random question answering is gonna give you the GMAT score you're looking for, but understanding what GMAT is testing is gonna give you that, I believe.
And I agree. I mean, I don't see a ton of attempts in Scholaranium for Quant. I see the courses, you've done them really well. Practice quiz course, absolutely phenomenal in Quant. But and I'm sure you did practice some official questions as well beyond that. But yes, you didn't do a ton of practice, is what I can see, either in Quant or in Verbal.
Yeah.
So that's really, really impressive overall. So you got the 740. Were your parents expecting this?
No, they were not expecting it, honestly, because I remember calling my mom and I said, "Mom, like this is what I got," and she almost like shouted and cried on the call, like, because I like, yeah, I think she always dreamt of me going to business school abroad, and like one of her children going abroad, and I think 740 like really gave her the confidence that this is something that was very achievable now, like that this was a possible future for our family. And like, because I was getting so deep in GMAT, and while I was at home and mom was going behind me, she also started to pick up on what scores mean, so she knew that 700 above 700 was good, and she found out that 740 was really good. And
tell me a bit more about her. So I mean, what is she? Is she a professional? Is she a housewife?
She actually works for Turkish Airlines, so she does, like, she's a manager for them.
She's a professional.
She's a professional.
Okay, so she can put things in context very, very well as to what that score means then.
Yeah, and I think what my parents speaked out about was that the 740 is higher than the average GMAT of most colleges in the world. Mm-hmm. That doesn't really mean much, but like for parents who like just engaging with the business school process for the first time, that was a thrill of their lifetime. So that was fun.
That's good. That's really good. Okay, so clean energy background. You've worked at Deloitte, then you've moved to clean energy. You clearly have passion for it. Yeah. So we were talking about schools, and you said MIT, you said UCB or Haas, and then we talked about Tuck. Tuck. I mean, as a school, I love Tuck, by the way. Just to really tell you, it was, I don't know if you've seen any of my other interviews, but I always push people towards Tuck. I love the culture over there. So that's good. Now, post your MBA, what is it that you want to do right off the bat?
So I have a few ideas. I would ideally like to work in the strategy team of I'd like to say a clean tech startup, because I've worked at large firms so far, and I'd like to get into a firm where I have some decision-making power and I can, shape the direction of that firm. Because I think that is a critical component of my experience that's missing in this larger journey of, starting my own clean energy firm in the long term. So I'm looking at the next step as a strategy role.
So right now you can sell clean energy. Yeah. You want to now build the products that make clean energy better.
Exactly. You're right.
Got it. That's good. And then with the strategy part, hopefully you can also have an impact on the business model, because business model is a huge part of clean energy.
Exactly.
It's not about building the right product. It's also making sure that it becomes, you can pay for it properly.
Yeah.
Reduce the risk because it requires a ton of investment. Okay, that's good. So how can we help you?
So I have like two broad questions, because I'm a novice at like this business school business. One was like, just broadly, how do you, like, any thoughts on how I can position my profile? And the second was, if you have any recommendations for like an admissions consultant that I can engage with. Both of these would be super.
So I think positioning your profile is fairly easy. It's a lot easier than it is for other people, because you've clearly made choices which align you, or that align you for the future. And as long as you get good letter of recommendations from your current boss, as long as you can show progress within your current job, it should, I mean, that's kind of the piece that I would look at. Are you one of the stars in your current organization? Have you risen through the ropes? Do you understand the business? Because your story is very consistent. You're not doing so when you think about change, what that people do, there are two. A lot of people kind of look at what a three-dimensional change. One is they change the location. People are going from India to the US, and then one of the things that people evaluate is, okay, from a work culture standpoint, how good is this guy going to be? The second thing they look at is to change their industry, and does this guy know the industry? And then they do a drastic change of their function, the job function that they're doing. And if you're going from tech into marketing, it's a drastic thing, which is what I did, by the way. It was a big change as R&D to marketing. It's like no user interface to all user interface. And for you, you're not making. I mean, for you, the biggest change is the change in geography, which is, and I think the way I can see with your demeanor, it's not as big a change as what admission officers would feel with some of the other Indian candidates or some of the other clean energy international students.
Right.
So I think, and you're not going to change your industry. Your goal is not to change your industry. And with regards to going from business development to strategy, it's not going from R&D to marketing. So it's not as huge a change. So for you, the key thing is going to be to make sure that in the current job, your achievements are very tangible. You can sell it, and then the other thing is that you position them well. I think for me, those are two things that I would make sure that I do well.
Got it. Thank you.
So in terms of admission consultants, I can recommend a few. So there's Poonam from ISA Review. She is one of India's, or is probably, when it comes to Indians, she's someone who has most reviews on GMAT Club. She's probably topmost Indian over there. If you want to work with Indians, then there are a couple of other firms. There's Kartik, who's based out of Chennai, I believe. He's a member of AGAC. He's also really, really good. I've had students who worked with him. Then I'm forgetting a name. Let me just actually get the name.
That's fine.
I have not worked with her for a long time, but she's really good as well. Have you heard of AGAC?
Yeah.
AGAC is an Association of Graduate Admissions Council. Nupur is really good. Nupur Gupta, if you've heard of her.
Got it.
So she's based out of Delhi as well. So
awesome.
So those are three that I would definitely recommend for your case. Overall, Nupur is also the president of AGAC. So yeah, I mean, just going to walk you through a few of these. So Nupur, you can really see she's the president of AGAC. I think she's a former Wharton MBA, if I remember correctly. Yeah. So then if you look at GMAT Club, you can really see the consultants over here. So if you go into show all admission consulting reviews and you sort them a number of reviews, you can see Poonam is among the top 5. Maria is not a consultant. She sells a product, so that's why I wouldn't consider Maria. She's not a consultant. She has a product.
I have bought that product, by the way.
Okay, Applicant Lab, yes. Yeah. Then Kartik should be here too. Yeah, August Academy. Kartik's relevant too.
Right, August Academy.
Yes. But then other than that, I mean, I know of international consultants who you can engage with. But yeah, that's kind of what who I would recommend. I mean, as a part of this, go for just a 30-minute call. Look at the comfort level, and I think you can't go wrong with either one, is what I would say. They all have good, solid processes.
Okay, that makes sense. Let me try that.
Yes. So yeah. Well, good luck, Kartik. Keep me in touch. And one other advice that I would really just say is, don't apply to all the top business schools in a single go. Remember this: your application does go through a cycle of maturity as you go from round 1 to round 2, or as you go from first to second.
Right.
So I wouldn't really do all the applications. I would leave at least one of your top schools in for round 2, at least one.
Okay.
Because what's going to happen is you get interview invites to a certain school. Even though you do a ton of prep, the feedback that you get at the end of round 1 is very valuable when you get into round 2.
Right.
By the way, if you get success in round 1, you're that much more confident as you go in round 2.
Right.
So that part is also there. So that's the other advice that I would say. Don't do everything in round 1. Do enough, but not everything.
I'll keep that in mind.
Yes. Maybe if you want to apply to TUC, do TUC in round 1, because one good thing that TUC does is that it gives you feedback if it rejects you.
Oh, okay. Okay, that should be helpful.
So TUC will always give you feedback. And that's one of the things I love about TUC, by the way. Even when they say yes, it's a really great community. When they say no, they will give you feedback.
That should be helpful.
Yeah, a bunch of our students, they got feedback their GMAT scores weren't high enough.
Okay.
And so when they, improved on their GMAT, they say, we love your candidacy, GMAT score isn't high enough. So do something about it, which won't be the case with you. Ayush, actually, I don't know if you talked about Ayush Gandhi. So Ayush got the same feedback with a 710, not from TUC, but from
Ross, I think.
Ross.
Yeah.
That is, GMAT wasn't high enough, and he improved upon it then. And so I think getting that feedback as to what can you improve upon. TUC rejected me, and my application to TUC was horrible. But they told me, hey, we would want to see one more year of experience before we admit you. So that's really good feedback. And I can understand why they did that to me, because when I looked at the application that I submitted to TUC, and remember, we were talking about 2003, there were no admission consultants then.
Yeah.
And I looked at that application because I was submitting my round 2 to Chicago, GSP Chicago. And I was like, man, my application to TUC was so horrible. And it's like, I am shocked that they even waitlisted me. I wouldn't waitlist myself with that application.
Got it.
So that's the round 1 versus round 2. But the fact at least TUC did give me feedback despite that horrible application. And your application is going to be way better than mine.
That means a lot. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. Good luck, Kartik. And as I said, keep me in the loop. And someone from the e-GMAT team will follow with you asking to put a review on GMAT Club if possible.
Of course. Happy to do it. Thank you so much, Rajat and team. This was super helpful.
Well, thank you, Kartik, and good luck.
All right. See you.
See you.